Hi, my name's Adrian Wells. For the last 10 years, the Murray-Darling Association has been working with schools, students and teachers right across the Murray-Darling Basin, not only to help the schools and students better understand catchment and natural resource management, but also to involve those students and teachers in developing some very creative programs that will help schools improve the health of our land and water resources. In 2010, the Murray-Darling Association and Burrumbuttock Public School formed a partnership, and together we initiated a program called Creative Catchment Kids for primary school students in both the Murray and the Murrumbidgee catchments. A key focus of that program was that the schools not only had to learn about natural resource management, but they had to identify an issue in their local community and then work in that community to develop, manage, complete and then report on that project. But rather than me tell you about it, let's ask one of the students to tell you about it instead.
Thanks, Adrian. Hi, my name is Katie. I was lucky to be chosen to be one of the students involved in the Creative Catchment Kids program in 2010. Well, what an exciting year it was. The project involved about 100 Year 5 and 6 students from 35 schools across the Murray Catchment. The students came from schools between Cabramurra in the Snowy Mountains to Malin in the far west of the catchment. The students were a real mix. Some came from regional cities and small towns, some from irrigation and dryland farms, some from towns on rivers, some students came from communities with no creeks or rivers at all, some came from the hills and some from the plains. Now, to manage this project, the students were broken up into 3 groups. The western group was from schools around Deniliquin and Barham. The central group was from schools around Albury and Corowa. And the eastern group was from schools around Holbrook and Culcairn. All students attended 2 workshops, a tour and a final celebration and reporting event. The first workshop was to meet other students and identify possible school projects. We travelled to the workshops in cars driven by teachers, parents and principals. Some adults stayed for the workshops and it was great to have them there. Some students travelled up to 3 hours to get to the workshops. That is real commitment. At the first series of workshops in March, we had some experts talk about natural resources and catchment issues. We had some role-playing, games and a lot of fun. We were even given a delicious morning tea.
Line up, youngest to oldest, stand in a circle and perform 28 star jumps.
The serious part of the first workshop was when we had to think of a project to complete by November. We had plenty of adults to help us, but at the end of the day, the ideas had to come from the students.
We've got 2 ideas. We don't know which one we're going to do yet, but we're either going to make a mural and put it out the front of the school, and the whole school is going to be involved in it, or we're going to plant a bit of the playground or on the bank of the oval.
Maybe a bird survey or native garden.
To make a bird box.
We're going to build an environmentally friendly model.
I'm Jemima Badger from Cabramurra Public School. There's 3 kids in my school and I'm in Year 6, and for my project I might be making a community garden in the art and craft house.
All our stuff's going to be made out of recycled things.
We live in a catchment that experiences floods and droughts, good times and bad.
I've learned about the catchments and what we can do.
Be water-wise and just try and save the environment.
Just learning about the Murray River and the Murray Catchment.
I was really impressed with the way that quite a few of them understand some quite difficult concepts like sustainability, catchment management, natural resource and natural resource management. And I've always argued that that augurs well for our natural resource and environment well into the future.
I like learning about the environment and what all the different plants were used for and how the Aboriginals use them as well, and the Murray Catchment and about the water dams that they use and everything.
So students actually have a fair idea of what needs doing and what students are capable of. Like our farmers and communities, students can also be quite resourceful. By April, 35 different projects in 35 different schools had been identified, and we students were pretty confident of completing these projects by the end of the year. In May, we gathered for another 3 workshops to get more information about our amazing catchment.
This is our veggie patch, and that's what we're going to be doing for our environmental project.
We had an idea of the frog pond and we just got rid of it because some kids could have got hurt if they jumped the fence or something.
Because we've got a problem with lupins and all unnative flowers up there and unnative plants. So if people can help by putting native plants in an area and watch them grow, they can see how they can help around the whole town or area, not just in one garden.
Bird nests in our trees at the school. We're planting native grasses and everything where we had a really bare patch, and we're going to raise some money so we can go back out to the 5 ways and plant some more trees.
We learnt about the need to find a balance between our communities, farming and the environment. We went on short walking tours and looked at some student projects that had started. It was amazing to see how some students were already linking with the community groups for help with their projects. At Barham, the students walked down to the Murray River and did some water testing activities. The Barham kids were so impressed that their project involved researching how water quality in the river and a local creek can change over a year.
Can everyone see those 3 squiggly lines down the bottom?
Yes.
And you might need to stop occasionally because the moving water will make it harder to see. If people had a look at these charts here, it gives us a bit of an idea of what's healthy and what's not healthy.
At Lavington East, the students had already started a project to landscape a large section of their school grounds with native plants. They had got teacher, parents and community help for their project. Students also learnt about what makes up parts of catchment forests and grasslands. We even got Mr. Dunlop and Mr. Wells to dress up as trees. I wonder if they need watering. At Deniliquin, the Edward School students decided to monitor Blake's Reserve over several months. Monitoring is very important when looking after the environment, and it was good to see that some students were doing similar projects. So, by June, student projects were well underway. Some students organised trips to meet with farmers, land care groups and businesses. Others were getting help from community groups, councils and the Catchment Management Authority. Some were busy building bird nest boxes, while others were taking photographs, talking to experts or preparing soil for the tree planting. Some projects were large, some were designed to go over a couple of years, some required sweat and hard work, some required creative thinking. It was not a competition and all projects were valued and appreciated, and some projects will continue next year. However, it was clear that the key to a good project was good planning. The creative juices were flowing. The staff from the Catchment Management Authority were very helpful. They attended workshops, gave talks and offered to be involved in the projects. 2 of the authority's board members also attended and participated in some workshops.
So important to educate the younger people as to the importance of the river systems, being the whole of the Murray Valley and all of their tributaries.
What do you think trees would do to the temperature of the water?
In October, we all went on field trips. The Western students visited the Millawa and Barmer forests.
You might notice the tall grass growing on the island with the tassel or the furry thing at the top of it. That is one called Phragmites australis.
They learnt why forests and rivers are so important to Aboriginal communities. They also discussed how we need to have water for towns, irrigation and the environment, and how we need to get the right balance. The students went on a boat trip along the Murray, something none of them had done before. It was amazing to see how different the river is when you are in a boat compared to sitting on the edge. Students saw tiny kingfisher birds and huge river red gum trees. What an amazing place! The central group of students went to Albury's Wonga wetlands to learn about the rare broad-shelled turtles and how they are being protected.
And believe it or not, these guys are actually quite a few years old. You think about 4 years old. So they're still really quite little though, aren't they?
Students from Albury West and How Long schools are involved in this project. Students also looked at tiny animals in our waterways that can only be seen with microscopes. What a surprise when the students had a turtle cake for morning tea. Yummy! It's a good thing that the real turtles don't taste this good, or they would never be protected. Students then went to Brocklesby Public School to help the students there with their project. Imagine our surprise when the students were told they had to run around Australia, which they did. Some even climbed Uluru. The Brock students are planting an enormous map of Australia in their school grounds with different trees for the different states. Students got their hands and shoes very muddy planting trees, grasses and shrubs. The eastern group of students spent a morning at Henty getting up close and personal with dung beetles, and I mean really close and personal. Rummaging through cow manure for tiny beetles may not be everyone's way of spending a morning, but it was certainly exciting for these students. In the afternoon, we looked at different types of vegetation around Pleasant Hills, sniffed chocolate lilies, inspected tree planting sites, and marvelled at a bank of solar panels in the middle of nowhere, tracking the day's sunlight and generating electricity. Awesome! Through all of this, Mr. Dunlop and Mr. Wells, the project managers, visited schools, helped students, found us some small amounts of funding if needed, and gave us lots of encouragement.
In the background you can see that they're busy planting their birdscaping garden, and they're planting a selection of local native plants.
Sue from the Wirramena Environmental Education Centre was amazing.
They need supervision, but they're doing a fantastic job and they're so eager. That's the big thing, that they're really eager to do it.
Paul and Keith, also from Riverina, helped us out. It all showed us that when fixing up the catchment, we need to work together. At the end of the year, we held a reporting day and celebration. There is no good doing all of this hard work if you don't celebrate. And when you're using government money, you need to account for it and show that you have done something useful. We invited guests and enjoyed some yummy food. So here we are at the end of 2010. Over 30 land and water projects have been identified, managed and completed by primary school students across the catchment in 9 months. Communities have been actively involved in many projects and students have reported on their various activities. We have developed much closer links to the Catchment Management Authority. Most importantly, the program has shown that when caring for our precious land and water resources, catchment kids can be very creative.
That's right, Katie. Adrian and I, as project managers, have been overwhelmed by the creative and positive response from students and schools. As you have seen, community partnerships can be very powerful. Parents and school communities, especially principals and teachers, should be very proud of the work of their students. They have indeed been very creative catchment kids.